How the DNS works, it's something that you should understand. How domain name servers work. You know, how do people find the address? Okay, of course, we all know already that every website or every computer connected to the internet has its IP address, right? And inside that IP address, you could have multiple folders. Inside those multiple folders, you could have different websites, several different websites. Okay, and so when you're going from one web server to another web server, or changing websites around from one website, or from HTML to WordPress and so on, you're going to have lots of issues with old files, new files, things like that. So how do you deal with that? Is what I'm going to talk about right now. Of course, there's a thing called a robottxt file. If you have never heard of what that is really a way of telling Google how to search your website, okay, and then index the content of your site. Now you can write your own robottxt file, or of course, if you're using WordPress, it can write it for you. Usually, if you are using WordPress, the Yoast is the most common. Yoast is the most common plugin for WordPress. Yoast will actually write the robottxt file basically for you as you put the data into it. So, you know that, but it's still something that you should understand. If we go to the, of course, there's a whole bunch of reading about it that I've posted online. Some from the W3, some from Wikipedia, some from Google, some from, again, Wikipedia. And so there's a thing called a robottxt file, redirects here. The robot inclusion standard, also known as the robots exclusion protocol, or simply robottxt, is a standard used by websites to communicate with web crawlers and other web robots. So again, a web robot is basically a software program that comes to your website, reads the content of your site, and then indexes it. So when you are searching on Google, you're not actually searching the internet. You're searching, of course, Google's index, or Google's database of the internet. Now, some of the problems that people would run into is that, you know, if the Google bot comes, it starts reading things that you might not want it to read, like maybe some code that you wanted to keep it out of or something like that. And in the old days, there was ways of using the ability to areas of your website to Google, but the most recent things I'm reading is that you should let Google read everything, even the JavaScript, even the CSS, and all that. In the old days, we used to kind of block them. In addition, you can block Google from even reading your site. Maybe you don't want to have your website in the Google index, right? Maybe you have sensitive material on there. Or maybe it's just content that you feel is more personal and you don't want Google to be in there, right? Maybe you don't want to be on the internet. Maybe you don't want to be searched. Maybe you don't want your picture showing up, right? When you apply for a job, first thing you're going to do is what? Go to Google and search your name, aren't they? And they find all those Facebook pictures of you jumping off a cliff. He looks dangerous. He's jumping off a cliff. Let's not hire him. I'm just saying there's ways of staying out of Google index, and in some ways, of course, is to use different ways. This is just one way. The standards specify how to inform the web robot about which areas of the website should not be processed or scanned. So again, this is a way of sort of dictating to Google what areas you want shown and what areas you don't want to show. And so, and there's more. It's more than just things that you don't want to show, right? Let me give you an example. Okay, so do I have one? Yeah. The back of the product, you'll see a QR code. Right? This QR code has information about this product. Okay, but it's not the page that I want them to read about this product. It's just a code that people can scan and get to a certain page that's formatted a certain way for their cell phone, because most people are going to scan with a cell phone. And in doing so, I don't want this page in Google. Okay, I don't want it to be indexed, because I don't want it to come up as well as the main page for the product. Right? This is only a QR code page, so I don't even want it to be in Google. I just want people to be able to scan it. Perfect, great. If somebody searched for the product, I want them to find the main page for the site, not the QR code, but the main page. Now the QR code is going to be on the internet though, because it's a link, and all QR codes are on the internet somewhere. So what you could do is you could put some code in the either in a robottxt file to say, and if let's say all the QR codes are in our directory, let's say they're all in a directory, you know, I have a directory zircon.com/QR code. So there's a directory, and I have all these QR codes, links in there. With the robottxt file, I can tell Google not to index everything that's in this folder. Don't include anything that's in this folder in the index or the directory. And so that's one use of the robottxt file. Another way not to, if you want to do it individually, so that's one quick way, and that's how you would use this robottxt file. Another way would be to, instead of having to do that, which probably is the most best way, because then you don't have to go and add, the other way would be to, of course, to add the meta tag, the meta tag, and the meta tag is going to be robot, and then it's going to be no link, no follow, like that. Now that was the old way of doing it. Google nowadays says you really don't have to include the no link at all as well, which I don't know why they say that now. But if you include this at the top of your page, let's say my QR code page, right? My QR code, this page. I can put this at the top, and supposedly Google would not put that in the index. Okay, so there's ways that you don't want people to go to a page, and there's ways of keeping people out. And so they have some information about how to do that. So let's read. This example tells all robots that they can visit all files because the wildcard asterisk. Okay, so basically in this robottxt file, it's just some code, and the code would look like this: user agent colon with the asterisk. The asterisk means read all the pages, stands for all robots, and the disallowed directive has no value, meaning no pages are disallowed. Well, the disallowed is part, yes, Miranda?
What is the meta tag to link to the robottxt?
Yeah, there is a meta tag to link. You'll see that in here. You can see the link up here. There's ways of doing it. It's not here right now, but I'm just saying what's written in there. I'm sure you'll find it.
Or is that meta tag something to do instead of the robottxt?
The one I wrote on the board, no link, no follow, is something instead of the robottxt. The robottxt file is something that you actually include at the very beginning of your, you can put it in htdocs, access reading file, I believe. Don't know. So again, this example has the asterisk for all files, and then disallow means that's what you don't want to be. So where would I put the disallow? So if I wanted to keep them all out of this folder right here, look. Okay, I want none of the QR codes to be in the index. Look at how you would do it here, right down here. Scroll down here. Disallow, and then it has the bin. So that you would put the directory in there. Like my example on the board, I would say disallow, and then put the QR code in there. Does that make sense?
It's a slash on the file.
Yeah, just like they have it here. So, and I guess the things I've been reading about as far as Google is concerned, The recommendation today is not to limit Google from reading the content unless you must. At least with the Yoast, they talk about how to, just let Google read all the stuff, and it'll make a decision on what to include or not. I don't know. And again, you could tell it which file. So you can go all the way down to the specific HTML file. Do you see that? And then, of course, there's a way to keep the whole bot out of the whole website. Bad bot? I don't know. I've never seen this before. I guess bad bot? This example tells a specific robot to stay out of a website. I guess bad bot is a robot. The Google bot is called Googlebot. Yeah, here, Googlebot. Right there, huh?
I think it's just the example.
Yeah, bad.
Replace bad bot with the actual.
Googlebot. Yeah. So Googlebot would be the name of the Google. And so then they give some other examples of how to do that. There's a whole bunch to it. So again, asterisk is all bots. Googlebot is Googlebot. But of course there's other bots out there. There's other search engines. Supposedly there's something called Yahoo, isn't there? Yeah, there it is. There's a Yahoo. And what else? There's a Bing, right? Bing.com. What is Bing? Well, if you have Bing, of course, if you have a Windows computer, Bing is integrated into the operating system, isn't it? I don't know. I haven't had a Windows system. Well, I do have one, but it's like Windows 7. I still have an XP computer. Anybody have an XP computer still? Is it just me?
I think I have a desktop.
Yeah, I got a desktop XP. But I think Bing is actually integrated into the OS 10, is it not? Who has a Windows 10? Is Bing part of the operating system? When you go on Windows 10 and you search for something, does it search on Bing?
Kind of call it Cortana.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think
It's rebranded. Yeah. You don't have, it just opens your default.
Okay. Do you use the Edge browser?
I do it to check layouts.
No? Okay. Is that what it's called? Internet Explorer turned to Edge, right?
And yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
use it to check layouts, and it's pretty good in terms of what it allows
Mm-hmm.
a designer to put on a website, but there are some limits, and there are other better browsers. You can't even check source code.
They won't let you?
No, the only thing they have is select all, print, and I think save image.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So where do you put your robottxt file? They recommend you put it on your server itself, I guess, is what I'm assuming here. When a robot visits a website, say foodbar.com, it first checks for the foodbar.com robottxt file. If it can't find this document, it will analyze the contents to see if it allowed to retrieve the document. If you can customize a robottxt file by applying only a specific robots and then disallow access to specific directories or files. Here's an example, a sample robottxt file that prevents all robots from visiting the entire site. They talk about that. The robot simply looks for a robot. So I guess it's just a plain txt file, so you would just type it in Notepad or something like that and save it as a txt file. That's what it's assuming, that's what it's saying. Do you see it at the top level right here?
And you can only have one file.
I guess so. I guess it's per server. It's per site. I could have multiple pages on my server.
You can't make two files of the same name on the same server site. You can't have two robots.txt on the same w3.org.
Mhm.
You can have it on www.w3.org.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you do this once.
If you do Yoast with WordPress, does it put it there automatically?
Yes. Yoast has its own robot.
You don't have to put the robot.txt file out?
Well, make sure you check the appropriate box. That was the problem I had last week. Do you remember I showed you the problem I had?
With the redirecting?
Well, no, not just that,
but
but last week I was showing that if you went to google.com and you typed in Zircon Stud Finder and I hit search. It came up with no, it actually came up and said robottxt file is not turned on. It actually told me that. So then I logged into the WordPress server, and there was a checkbox for in Yoast that turns on the robottxt file. So I failed to do that. But now that I did do that, it actually is showing up now properly. And of course, and once you make changes to your site and things like that, then of course you would want to let Google know if, well, I mean, Google's going to come and read it anyways eventually, but if you log into your Google account, there is an option for submitting to Google to tell them that you have new content, and they'll come and do it within 24 hours. They'll send a Google bot to you and index you. But of course, I have major problems still, and here's they are right here. If you look right here, boom, it goes to a bad page. So this is an old HTML page that's on the server. I can either remove the old HTML page, and where it will go, it'll go to the 404 error page, right? If you go to zircon.com, where is that? So if I go to zircon.com bad link, it should go to the 404 page. So, and then I don't know. You know, you got your problems. You know, how do you go about dealing with that? I don't know. Yes?
Why was it listing different robottxt on different addresses? Were those different files?
What do you mean by different addresses?
Like, one says w3.org, one says w3.org, :1234.
You mean on the example from this page? This page, you mean? I think these are.
Or that's just examples where to put it for different addresses.
They're for different port numbers. Port 80 is the default port for a web page. But you could have different port. It depends on how your server is configured. I am currently using WordPress. WordPress Engine is the server that Zircon's on, and they use a port 2222, and you have to know that in order to FTP to it. Most FTP uses port 21. It's something called a port. That's what these
So
numbers are.
You put the robot text in a folder and then you.
Not in a folder on the top level. I would do it here at this one. This is the one you should look to unless you have a special port that you want it to go
And you
to.
specify in your HTML the meta tag.
No, you can just put it on the top of the server is what I'm assuming as I'm reading this right here. You don't have to put it into the HTML.
It automatically reads.
When it comes to the page, it automatically looks for that file. You just make a file and put it on the server, top level.
Just add one file per website.
Yes. Where was I at? Oh. So again, you can see the problems that I have as far as how to do that. Yoast will pretty much write the robottxt file, and then they don't disallow things unless you really want them to be disallowed, and so on. And I haven't really figured it out, but they do have information about the robottxt file on the Yoast website, and I was
Can you
reading.
pull up a txt file from the directory, like if you go to your Zircon file?
I don't know. That's a good question. I never tried. We can try it. No. Don't know. This is using WordPress. If I made my own robottxt file, maybe. I don't know. Does anybody have an example?
You know how to see the WordPress txt?
Don't know. It's a good question. Again, you can disallow. I think it's the most important thing. So here's the meta tag, no index, no follow. Right here is the meta tag. I guess you could just put no index if you want. So there's different ways of dealing with not being in there. Again, the other way would be to put the meta name, robots, content, no index, and I believe there is no follow as well. I wrote that on the board. I've used that before. And that is, instead of using the robottxt file to keep Googlebot or any of the bots out of your certain areas of your website, you can actually specify this at the top. So this would go into the HTML. This would go in the header.
So instead of robot.txt.
Yeah, instead of dealing with that, you could just put this at the top of your page, and it will keep your supposedly keep. And this is not foolproof though. And even ask Google, they say that this is just a recommendation. It's not. We might index it as well. So you would put this towards in the HTML. In addition, you can actually change inside your htaccess doc. This is a file that's on a Unix server or and so these are server files that are in your server. That's what tells it how to display your websites. I haven't gone in. I haven't been able to access this file. And then there is a no follow. No index means don't put it in a directory and don't follow the links. No follow means don't follow the links. In this case, they have a no follow here on the link itself, but I believe you could put it in the meta tag at the top. The way I wrote it on the board, you could put no index / no follow in the meta tag at the top, and it would not follow from the page. Like I wrote it on the board. I've used that before. Yes. You would put that in the meta tag. Like this. I would add, oh shit, where did it go? Here. I would put / after the no index, put no follow here. I don't know. You would have to look online. There's a couple different ways of writing it. Which one? Which one? I'm sorry. Which?
There was something like that said no index, but it said but it was the link.
That was the last example. They put the actual no follow on the actual link itself, like on an A link, right? If you don't want Google to follow a specific link on your page, you could put no follow in the link itself, in the code for the link.
Do you put that as a content attribute?
You would put that in the code for the. Here, look.
Oh,
Where the link is, an A link right here. See, A link, then you're going to this page, and you don't want Googlebot to follow it, you can include this in the link itself.
Putting both the link and the meta tag, if you want to say both the no index and the follow, do you say / or do you put it 2 different times?
What do you mean by 2 different times?
Like
If you put it in the meta tag, it should account for the entire page, and you wouldn't have to do it here. Right? The meta tag would override everything that's on the page. I don't know. Google has some.
by 2 different times, I mean 2 different. I mean, like you state content equals one thing, and then say content equals again another thing, instead of just saying content equals one thing / another thing.
What's that? Where?
Like would you say content equals no index, then content equals no follow, or content?
No, I would write it here.
Oh, you just say / no follow.
Yeah, I've done that before. Yeah. I don't know why they're writing it several different ways here, but there is a way of doing it. I would go off of what the W3 recommends here. I think I wrote, there's a link here somewhere.
Do it that way in the
Here's the way Google says to do it. Oh, here's the way Google says to do the robottxt file. And here's their no index tags right here. Here's the way Google says to write your no index file. They say you don't even have to include the no follow. There, it looks right here. Meta name, robots, context, no index. See? So I guess you don't have to put the no follow. But they do have a no follow. It's here. Or none is equivalent to no index, no follow. There's a none. So I guess you could put none. Maybe. I don't know. Google has many different ways of doing it. You're going to have to read and see which one is the correct way. None looks like one way of doing it there.
You do none from the version two.
Oh, wait, it's no follow says do not follow the links on this page. No index says don't show it in the search results.
Yes.
So that's different.
Yeah, it is different.
Can you do none on the link version two?
That's sort of what it's assuming here. The word none right here says equivalent to no index and no follow.
Can you do that on the href?
I don't know about the none on the href. I just saw the example of the none on the no follow. Or the no follow on the link. Here's the way they write it here. Here's one. This is right from the Google website. You can create a multi-directive instruction by combining robots meta tag directives with a comma. Here's an example of a robot meta tag that instructs web crawlers not to index the page and not to crawl any of the links on the page. So yeah, my / the way I wrote it on the board is wrong. They put a comma in between it.
And also, do you mean to write no index, not no link?
What's that?
Do you mean to write no index, not no link?
I don't know. They have no index here. I would follow what Google says. Right there.
So Google bot is the robot for Google.
It's the name of their crawler that will come. But there's other robots, as I was trying to say. There's Bing, and then there's what? There's, what do we say? Bing and I'm sure Yahoo. And there's a bunch of third-party bots that go and read all your content and send it out to everybody else. Right? Oh, you know, there's probably bots. The Russians probably have all kinds of bots. Okay, so I would follow this right here is what I would follow. Let's talk about the redirecting. Again, I think I showed you how to do the meta tag redirect last class. Do you remember that? Right? You saw my problem, right?
Yeah.
We were looking at that last class, right? Where's my problem? My problems. I have lots of problems. Or if we go, so again, old pages right here are being searched and see, look, it says right here, a description for this result is not available because the site's robottxt file. See, there's no robottxt file. It's even giving you an error message right there. Okay, you see that? The reason why is because this site doesn't exist anymore. This page doesn't exist anymore. So what I do is I have a redirect. So if you click on that, it'll automatically, watch up here, it'll automatically redirect to the correct page. You notice you see it up here. And I think I showed you the code for that last class, right? How I do that. I don't know if I
Can
can.
you put in your robot.txt file not to show any HTML files, star.html?
Ooh, that's a good idea. Maybe. I don't know. That's a possibility. I'd have to look that up. But that's one way that you could tell it to get rid of all the old HTML files, maybe.
Or you could just get rid of them from your server because now it's already recrawled.
Mm-hmm.
You had that kind of as a temporary fix.
Yeah, it's more complicated than that because there's other things that are people are linking to the old HTML files.
Oh,
Is the
that's
problem is not just us
Yeah,
linking
yeah,
to
yeah,
it, but there's other third companies out there that are linking to the old pages and stuff like that. The other thing to keep in mind is that Google also reads your PDF files. Like right here's a PDF file, and it does index your PDF files. So if you click on the PDF, it'll take you to a PDF file. So Googlebot will read and index a PDF file. like this one right here, which is taking forever to download and open. I don't know why it's not working. I guess it's just downloading it. But it will read this content as long as it's readable. And there's ways of making, and I've looked up how to make a PDF file more searchable on Adobe website, because I was looking, hey, I want the PDFs to show up. That's fine because it has good information in it. And Adobe has some information, but it's not very good. They do talk about adding meta tags to your PDF, but it's just not, I don't know, it's just not good. It's going to end up reading the content anyways, is what I'm trying to say. So Google does not recommend this. One of the problems that Google has with the redirect that I'm doing here, remember I think I showed you the code last time where it's meta redirect. So here it is. Where is it? This one. I think I showed you this last class, right? This is what I'm using to do the redirect right here. Meta equivalent refresh content 0 is how many seconds, and then here's the redirect, right? This is what I include at the top of the old HTML files to have it go to the new PHP page. The downfall of this, though, is Google doesn't really follow the link here, and so it's not really adding to your ranking, I guess you would call it. Google recommends not using that, but using the 301 redirect. So Google's recommendation is to use, and I linked that on to, they have the HTTP 301 redirect. The HTTP response status code 301 moved permanently is used for permanent URL redirection, meaning current links on or records using the URL that the response is received for should be updated. The new URL should be provided in the location field included with the response. The 301 redirect is considered a best practice for upgrading users from HTTP to HTTPS. That's probably a really common problem as well. What is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? Is, of course, if you're going to a secure server, S stands for secure. So if you're doing, like, let's say, transactions, right? You have a shopping cart on your site, or people are logging in, right? You want people, when they're logging in, to have an encrypted data being sent, right? You just don't want to have a form that when the person hits the submit button, the general string is going, right? You want to have an encrypted string. Next week we'll talk about forms and what that means and what a string is. But in this case, if you, let's say you built an old page with HTTP and then you went to a secure one that's HTTPS, this looks like the reason why they're doing that is to change it like that. Does that make sense? Okay. In addition, they recommend using the 301 as well. The biggest problem with doing this is that you have to do it in the HT access file right here. Here's an example, and so this is a file that is on the server, which tells the website how to display the pages, basically. And you could go in there and adjust this file as the way it says. I haven't figured it out because I tried downloading this file yesterday, and I couldn't see it on my Mac. It wouldn't let me open it. I don't know if I need Windows or what, but my Mac would hide this file. When I tried downloading this from the server, the HT access, this file right here, to try this redirecting stuff that they're recommended here, my Mac would not display it. I don't know why. Even it would just hide it for some reason.
Even in terminal?
Yeah, I FTP'd it. So yesterday I wanted to try this, what it's saying here with this HT. Oh, I just wanted to open up the HT access and see what was in there, right? So I went to the server using FTP, grabbed the HT access file, transferred it onto my Mac. It was there on my Mac because I could see it in the FTP program, but when I go to the directory in the operating system, it wouldn't see it as a file. It wouldn't see anything. It was hidden. So I don't know. I haven't gone further into this. It's something I need to do some more research in. But this is a way it says to permanently move pages. And they have some example. They even have a PHP example here. Again, both Bing and Google recommend using the 301 redirect to change your URL. So it's something that I have to look into further. I mean, the meta tag one works, but it does have a delay. And the other problem that they have with that delay, of course, is that Google will not follow it or something like that, they were saying. Where this is a better way, because Google will look at the 301 and then go and index the new page. So, and then of course they have some other questions you could go. So I haven't gone further with this, but this looks like might be a better solution than having to go and do that. I think the better solution might be to hide using the robottxt hide from maybe hide old pages, maybe.
This is for redirecting to an HTTPS.
Well, it could be for redirecting to what it's saying is how to do a redirect. It could be from an HTTP to an HTTPS. Could be from an HTTP index or HTML page to a new PHP page.
Oh, it could be anything.
Yes, it's just redirecting. And then, so there's some, there's that one. We already looked at that one. Did we look at this one? Yeah, we looked at that one. There's also a way of building a site map. Where you can build your robottxt file to a certain way to have your web page crawled better. And they talk about using XML to do that.
Do you put the HTTP 301 thing in your HTML file?
What's that?
Do you put the HTTP 301 thing in the HTML file?
No, it goes in the access file that I was just talking about. The access file. This one, HT access. But I told you I was having problems. I downloaded it, but I wasn't able to open it. So I don't know yet. It's something I have to do some more research into. Another way to do the redirect, or not redirect, but actually, yeah, other ways to control the crawling would be to build a XML file. A sitemap is an XML file that lists the URLs for a site. It allows webmasters to include additional information about the URL, when it was last updated, how often it changes, and how important it is in relationship to other URLs in the site. This allows search engines to crawl a site more intelligently. Sitemaps are a URL inclusion protocol and complement the robottxt file. So there's actually more than just making the robottxt file. They have a sitemap file that you can include, and they write about it here, written in XML. And so I haven't looked further into this either. They use the example of multi-language sites and how to control, because wouldn't it be good if you let's say you made a German site, you only want the German language to show up in Germany, as well as in English, as well as Japanese. So there's ways of having them come and control maybe language. So actually adding a sitemap to your page to have it do intelligent crawling, I guess, if that's the term. I guess that's the term they're using, intelligent crawling. Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully that this discussion gives you some things to think about when you are redirecting. I don't know. You would have to try it. It's something that you should look into, though. I haven't looked further into this, but I'm going to have to probably do something like this once I start making multiple languages sites. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking right now. What I want you to do is think about the things we wrote on the board and start thinking about making a layout. You can do that now for the last half hour before Jean comes. I'll show you what's on the board there.